Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again it is Sunday, and that means it's time for the Texas Gun Vault Poll Question of the week. This week's question deals with stocks, more specifically stocks on modern sporting rifles. But if you're unfamiliar with what this segment is, this is a weekly vlog that I put out where I ask you all, as my viewers and subscribers, about something that deals with guns, gun culture, current events, or maybe even something fun like an EDC item that I want to get your thoughts and opinions on. Last week I did a review of a 17 designed folding stock for an AR-15. I thought it was kind of interesting and different. I didn't really see the need, but I was very surprised by how many people in the comments thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. So it got me thinking, I need to ask you guys what your favorite types of stocks are and why. So as I mentioned, this week's question deals with stocks, and stocks more specifically on tactical firearms. I know if you're somebody that likes to go out hunting, you got your bolt action rifle, well, the fixed stock is definitely going to be the way to go, or probably the most popular option. But you guys know I'm a collector. I love tactical firearms. I've actually brought out a few to show you today, and I like different types of stocks for different reasons. And obviously the designs of different guns really will affect the types of stocks that can be put on those guns. So this really isn't a question of which one is best or which one you think is best, but more what type do you prefer, or maybe what type do you think is the coolest. Now going into this question, I want to tell you that I am very aware that there are a few stocks out there that can do multiple things. So for example, you can have a side folding stock that is also telescopic. But which one of those features do you think is the most productive and the coolest? So with that said, let's dive right into this week's question. This past week, I released a video about the 17 Designs folding AR-15 lower receiver. I was surprised by how many people thought it was a great idea, even though it is very different than the original design and intentions of the AR-15 M4 and M16. This got me thinking about the various types of stocks we find on rifles today. I know personally I like the function and look of a particular stock, but I was curious what you thought and if you had any preferences. What type of stock do you prefer on your tactical rifles and why? You know, another thing I get asked a lot on my videos is, hey, will this stock work? Or what do you think about this particular adapter so you can take one stock from one type of rifle and apply it to another? Many times I don't have a lot of experience with that. One of the things I've always found very curious are those people that absolutely love AKs and then go ahead and put on some type of telescopic AR-15 stock on it. For me, the coolest thing about the AK is that the whole recoil mechanism is inside the receiver. So why would you want a telescopic sight when obviously a folder or an underfolder would be the better option? But I'll go over each of those when I discuss each one in detail, but first let's get the results of this week's poll. With 867 votes as of me filming this video, we have fixed stock, non-adjustable, sturdy, and traditional, 11%. Folding stock, great for storage and easily deployed, 22%. Telescoping stock, thin, minimalist, and tactical, 61%. Skeletonized stock, like a fixed stock but lighter, 3%. And something else or gun specific, like an AK underfolder, 3%. Now, I have to be very honest with you, I was very surprised by the results of this poll. And I say that a lot from week to week, really kind of depending on what we're talking about. I was really expecting the folding stock to get the most votes. Not only did I just make a video about a folding stock AR-15, but I know there's a lot of people that watch this channel that love a wide variety of rifles. In fact, many times their favorite types of stocks are folding stocks. But for them to say the telescoping stock really kind of surprised me, because on some guns, the telescopic stock doesn't give you the shortest and most compact package, especially for transportation and storage. Well, let's go through each one of these and I'll give you guys my personal thoughts and opinions. First, we have fixed stock, non-adjustable, sturdy, and traditional. Now, each one of these stocks has pros and cons. Now, here I have one of my AR-15 A2 style rifles. I know it's kind of an amalgamation of a number of different parts. Some people will say, well, you have an A4 handguard on that. I know. But for the most part, this is an A2 rifle. And here I have the fixed stock. The thing I love about fixed stocks is exactly what I put in the poll, that these are really sturdy. When it comes to especially longer barreled rifles, in this case, this is a 20-inch barrel, I've always found that the fixed stocks are just the best. Because they're so sturdy, they have very little play in them, they just give you a feeling of solidity. It is just solid. And I always felt like I get a lot more accuracy out of them, and they're way more comfortable. I don't know if it has to do with just the weight or the shape. A nice fixed stock on an AR-15 just feels really good. But I'm very aware that in the modern battlefield, people want something that's going to be a little bit more compact. Now, as a civilian, I hope I never have to be on any type of battlefield. But of course, we like to have the latest and coolest gadgets. So let's talk about the folding stock. Now, the folding stock, as I said, is the one that I thought would get the most votes, mainly because so many rifles offer folding stocks, and for a compact package, they provide the smallest footprint. So in this case, I brought out kind of a weird one for you guys. This is my SBR Glock 24. So this is actually chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson, and this is in a B&T chassis. Maybe some of you guys have seen this before. And for the most part, it looks like a standard pistol. Yeah, it has the vertical foregrip, which it legally is allowed to have because I do have a tax stamp on this. And so in this way, it kind of looks like in any other weapon. But what's really awesome about these B&T chassis is that it has a folding stock. And that allows me to have a third point of contact if I wanted to shoot this kind of like a little bit of a carbine or a personal defense weapon. But when this stock is folded, it is a super compact package. I absolutely love that. I know on many AKs, you're able to shoot the gun with the stock folded. It's a short package for getting in and out of cars. I believe some of them were designed for tanks way back in post-World War II. For me, when it comes to the folding stock, I haven't really found one that really feels as solid. So for example, this folding one here, while it doesn't have a lot of play in it at all, and of course it's going to be very small and minimalistic simply because it's on such a small gun, I've always felt that I've never able really to get a good cheek weld on many folding stocks. Now yes, there are stocks that provide that, but for the most part, the guns that have folding stocks that I personally own, I never really feel like they're as solid, especially on the side of my face. Then we have the telescopic stock. Now this is the one that everyone seemed to vote for, even though when it comes to many questions I get here on the channel, most people are asking about other types of stocks. But for this one, I brought out the M4 by Benelli. This is my H2O version of this awesome shotgun, and this does have a telescopic stock. Now, I personally like telescopic stocks, and I think on guns where you can put them on, they're great. The only problem with them, I think, for the most part, with some guns is they're the only option. Like with AR-15s and M16s. Now, I know I did that 17 design, lower receiver build, but unfortunately, you can't fire that gun with the stock folded. And that's because the action of an AR-15 comes back into the stock. And the same thing is true for this Benelli. Even though you have this little tube right here, this is actually part of the recoil mechanism. There's a little rod that connects to the bolt carrier that comes in here, and there is a spring. So this is something that has to be on the shotgun all the time. You can't fold this out of the way like you can on a pump shotgun or other shotguns where the recoil mechanism is up here. It's just intrinsic to the design. So adding a telescopic stock will give you an adjustable length of pull. It also puts it into a little bit shorter package, but unfortunately, you cannot fold this thing. Now, in my opinion, when it does come to a stock that is non-fixed, the telescopic stock often is the most sturdy. And I find that to be extremely comfortable. Now, on some guns like the MP5 that has more of like a wire stock that's telescopic, you don't really get a good cheek weld either, but darn do those look really cool. And on some guns, you just have to have those. Things like B&T APCs and MP5s from HK, those stocks look awesome. They might not be the most comfortable to shoot. As I said, you don't get a great cheek weld, but man, can you put that all into a small compact package and they look cool as heck. Then we have the skeletonized stock. Now, many times when I see a skeletonized stock, it's part of a folding stock or something else. So as I said, it has two mechanisms in one. And this is my new Kalashnikov KP9 that has been SBR'd. And it has the triangle skeletonized stock. The great advantage to this is that it is as sturdy as a standard kind of fixed stock, but it has that cool kind of minimalist look. But many times the skeletonized stocks might not be as comfortable. They're often made of metal, and in the winter months, this actually gets a little bit cold. Right now I'm sitting out here in a very cold garage, and if I shoulder this, I feel it on my face. Not that it really matters. I think it has an awesome look, and yes, as I said, it is multifunctional because the stock can fold as well, but some guns just have a skeletonized stock and that is it. But which one of these features I think is the best? Well, definitely the folding over the skeletonization of the stock. I mean, if this was a full kind of fixed stock that could fold, well, that'd be fine too. But the skeletonized stocks, I think, always look really cool. So from an aesthetic standpoint, I've always liked the industrial look of a gun. I mean, you have to admit, aesthetically, that gun is just awesome. And that triangle stock just looks so good and so sexy. Then we have something else or gun specific like an AK underfolder. Now I don't have an underfolding AK, and the only reason I added this is I know if I didn't talk about that, I'd have a ton of AK guys going, "You left out the underfolder, the greatest invention of Russia ever." I totally get that. So I was like, okay, something else or different kind of stocks, or especially the underfolder. I knew I had to add that, but it only got 3%. I was really expecting a ton of the AK guys to vote this one up. I was kind of expecting 10 to 15%, so it only getting 3% kind of surprised me. So let's go ahead and see what you guys had to say with this week's top-rated comments. And with the top-rated comment of the week, we have Red9Man 2130, who said, "For all-around purposes, I prefer a telescoping car stock. They can be adjusted to many different users, and they collapse, making storage, transport, and use in confined areas better. On the other hand, I prefer a 20-inch barrel, for ballistics, and for longer range, a fixed A2 stock. I use both." And as I said, I understand where he's coming from. I really think it depends on the application and the gun. He brings up a great point that I forgot to mention, that on the telescoping stock, especially the ones that have multiple places where you can put the stock, you can adjust the length of pull for various shooters. I know some people are taller, some people are bigger. You know, I got the dad bod. Some people are shorter. You got women, you got children, and if you have an adjustable telescoping stock, you can get the proper length of pull so they can get the best eye relief on any type of optic that you may be running. So I think from a practicality standpoint, the telescoping stock is the best. Even though this folds and is skeletonized and it's really cool, you only get one length of pull. If it's not for you, well, you might not shoot this gun the best. Then we have Stevo545, who says, "There was no option for telescopic folder, and as a primarily AK dude, I like the option of both. Can't beat a solid old triangle folder though." Well, I got one right here. And as I said, which one of the features do you think is the best? The telescoping or the folding option? I think when it really comes to AK, the folding option is the best, or the better of those two scenarios. Only because all of the action of the AK is internal into the receiver, and this gun can be fired with the stock folded. So you can kind of run it like an AK pistol and in really confined situations. Where that AR-15 lower receiver that I reviewed last time, you have to have the stock deployed to fire it at all. Then we have Dalton, who said, "I have not had a folding stock since it's pretty expensive for something that's ballistically to aid in storage. I generally prefer the BCM stock, or if I'm feeling nostalgic, I'll go fixed with a carry handle and all." So he's probably coming more from the AR perspective. Yeah, the folding stock on the AR perspective, I just don't think is that practical. And I'm really happy to see that so many people in the comments were giving the fixed stock on the AR so much love. I absolutely think these are the best types of stocks for the longer barreled ARs, and people do not appreciate them as much anymore because we have all these cool tactical options. But for some reason, maybe it's because I love older guns, these fixed stocked ARs just look cool and they shoot so well. Then we have Chris Rodriguez, who says, I use KP15A2 lower cut down to the number 4 position on a carbine adjustable stock. The reason I run the lower is a 1 pound weight savings compared to the regular aluminum lower. My preference would be a folding telescoping stock that is functional when folded. The Brownells 180 with a law folder in a suppressed 300 blackout pistol configuration is my dream setup. And so he's kind of echoing the same thing that I was talking about. I guess it really kind of depends on the application, but a gun that can fold, that can also be fired with the stock folded, is definitely the way to go. He also brought up something interesting that I don't think I really talked about before, and that's the weight savings. Some of these guns really can have a lot less weight if you use a particular type of stock. So definitely the triangle stock or the skeletonized stock is going to give you a lot of weight savings over this. But then if you have a lot less weight in the back, that might affect the overall balance of the gun. On a longer gun, like this one here with the 20-inch barrel, having a little bit more weight in the back actually makes it more comfortable. Yeah, the gun's a little bit heavier, but if you had all that weight out front, you have to spend a little bit more time holding up the front. That could affect your sight picture and your accuracy, especially if you're just in a standing position. So he brings up a good point there. The balance and weight could be an issue, especially if you're building a gun for a very specific type of maybe home defense situation. Then we have finally Gurr, who says, telescoping stocks for me. I like to be able to get things as compact as possible when they're stored, but still retain functionality and quick deployment. Now, when it comes to storage, I can tell you I always am fighting my safes. I got a lot of guns and I'm trying to always put them in there where they're not rubbing up against each other. When it comes to folding stocks, I always have the stocks deployed when I put them in the safe because I care more about the width of a gun than I do the length of a gun. I have no problem. I have very tall safes. So if the stock is deployed, I can put this up in the safe, no problem. But when I fold the stock, well, that's going to take up more space and I can put fewer guns in that particular row. So for me, when it comes to storage, I still prefer the telescoping stock over the folding one. The only advantage the folding stocks have for me, I think more is for deployment or if I'm going to the range and I just want to put them in a smaller bag. But for me, storage on a folding stock doesn't really matter. Now, there are some guns that I will store folded, like this B&T chassis on this Glock 24, but that's just because it's so minimalistic and so thin anyway. It doesn't really add a lot of width. But on some guns, that folding stock is going to add another inch to maybe even an inch and a half. So I know this week's question was not the most groundbreaking question. We're not here having a debate. We're not trying to figure out which one is best because I think we all agree there are different stocks that work better on different types of guns. We're just talking about our own personal preferences, and maybe if you have a gun that is capable of accepting multiple types of stocks, telescopic or maybe folding, which do you prefer and why? And maybe do you gravitate towards a particular type of gun because of the type of stock options it provides? It's just an interesting question, and I was curious where you guys felt on the subject. And to be honest with you, as I said, I'm very surprised by this week's results. I was expecting the folder to get the most votes. Now, which one would have voted for? Probably the telescopic, and then I would have gone with the fixed stock. Those are just my two favorite. So there you go. That's how I would have voted, but I never vote in these polls and I never comment because I don't want to skew the results. Now, if you're interested in participating in next week's poll, please go to the community tab of my YouTube channel. I will also post a link to it in the description below. Click that, go over there, see what next week's question is, vote, comment, and like other people's comments so we can get the top rated comments of the week. Sometimes it's serious and sometimes it's just funny or has to deal with current events. Who knows? I'll decide on the day of what that week's poll will be. I like to try to keep these things kind of fresh, different, and mix them up. So I hope you guys enjoy these. So let me know what you think in the comments section below. I'd like to know if you agree with the results of this poll and my thoughts on each one of these types of stocks. So, as always, thanks for watching.